In this lesson, we're going to be adding fractions. And so we're going to start with this example that I have here. It says that Raven ate one piece of pizza from a personal-sized pizza cut into 6 equal parts. So that would be over here. Ate one of the 6 pieces, right here. Later on, she ate one piece from a personal-sized pizza cut into 4 equal pieces. So here she ate 1/4 over here. How much of one personal-sized pizza did she eat? So if I put both of those pieces on the same pan, how much of one total pizza did we eat? Well, first of all, we're going to have to use some fraction circles. We're going to have to see what we can do to figure this out, because I can't just put those together and add them together because they don't have the same denominator. They're not the same size, so I can't just add them together. So again, just like in our last lesson, you don't have fraction circles in front of you, and you won't be able to see me use them, so we'll just use our pictures over here. We're going to use a whole, the 1/6 piece, and a 1/4 piece, because that's what our pizza was cut into. And we're going to use the 1/4, and the 1/6, and the 1/4. And what we're going to do is we're going to put them on the same pizza pan. So I say, like the example said. So we have 1/4 here, and then 1/6, which is going to come to about right there. So now, how much of this whole circle is covered? Well, it's a little less than a half. That I know, but I don't know exactly how much. Some people might say, well, there's 6 pieces here, 4 pieces there, so we have 2 pieces out of 10 total pieces. But we can't say that because these pieces aren't the same size. And we can't compare things that aren't the same size. So what we need is common denominators, which is what we have over here. Whenever we're adding and subtracting fractions, we need to find common denominators. And I have a little chant here that I use to help me remember this rule. It goes something like, when you add and subtract, get the bottoms the same, and then you deal with the top. Just a little chant to help me remember that when I'm working with fractions and I want to add them together or subtract them, we need to get the bottoms the same, meaning get a common denominator. Then we're going to add or subtract the tops. So what we're going to do is find a common denominator, which if you watch the last lesson, you know that we use fraction circles to help cover them up. But we won't go and cover them all up. I'll just let you know that 12, the 12th piece, goes and covers up the 6 and the 4. And so to create our common denominators, I'm going to go from 6 to 12. I'm going to times by 2. And whatever I do to the bottom, I'm going to do to the top. So 1 times 2 is 2. Then we'll do the same thing over here. 4 times 3 is 12. And 1 times 3 is 3. So now we have our new fractions that we'll be able to work with, and they have a common denominator, so now we'll actually be able to add them together. So we have 2/12. So here, this one was 2/12. So I cut it into 12 pieces, and here we had 3/12. So this one is 3/12. When we add them together, we're not changing how many pieces the pizza was cut into, so it's still cut into 12 pieces, but how many total pieces did we eat? Well, we had 3 and 2, which gives us a total of 5. So 5/12 of the entire pizza was eaten. So we have to find common denominators before we add or subtract. So let's try another one here. This time we're going to add 1/3 plus 1/2. So first, using our fraction pieces up here, I'm going to do a half. So that would be like this top half up here. And then we want a third, which is going to be about like that. This piece right here. And so I want to know how much of this whole circle is shaded. Well, I can tell right now that it's going to be more than a half this time, but I don't know exactly unless I find common denominators. I can't just say out of those 5, there's 2 out of 5 because the pieces aren't the same size. So we need to find common denominators first. If you don't remember how to find common denominators, remember for this one, my denominators are 2 and 3, and I can list multiples of each number, which is like counting by that number. So 3, 6, 9, 12, and so on. Counting by 2s would be like 2, 4, 6, 8, and on from there. The first number that these share in common, the first multiple they share in common, is 6. So that's our common denominator that we're going to use. So now we're going to create equivalent fractions. go from 3 to 6, we're going to times by 2. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So this will be 2. Over here we have 1/2. We go from 2 to 6, we're going to times by 3. And times by 3 on the top and get 3. So now I have common denominators. I can add these two together. 2 6 I have here. Here I have 3 6. I can add them together and get 5 6. So 5 6 of this whole circle is shaded. Yes, that's more than a half. It's less than a whole. So we know that we did it right. We can try a few more problems like this to make sure we get the idea down. Here we have 1/8 and 5/12. We're not going to use any pictures this time. We're just going to go ahead and figure it out. So very first thing, when we add and subtract, we get the bottoms the same, and then we deal with the top. It's our little chant to help us remember. So we need to get the bottoms the same, meaning let's get common denominators. So here we have 8 and 12. If I list some of the multiples, the 8 would be 8, 16, 24, 32, and on from there. 12 would be like 12, 24, 36, 48, and on from there. And I see one in common. They each have 24. That's going to be our common denominator. So here I have 24. Here I have 24. So now to get from 8 to 24, we have to times by 3. Whatever I do to the bottom, I'm going to do to the top. So 1 times 3 is 3. Over here, we're going from 12 to 24, so we're going to times by 2 and times by 2, because whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top, and 5 times 2 is 10. Now I can add them together, and we'll get 13 on the top, and remember our bottom stays the same. So I'd have 13 24. We're going to find another one here. We have 6/8 and 3/5. So remember, when we add and subtract, we get the bottoms the same, and then we deal with the top. So let's get the bottoms the same. We need a common denominator again. So 8 and 5 we're working with this time. Again, our multiples of 8 are going to be like 8, 16, 24, 32, and on from there. For 5, we're going to keep going a little bit farther. This will be and then 40. For 5, we'll have 5, 10, 15, 20. I'm going to keep going. I don't see any in common yet. 25, 30, 35, and 40. There's our common multiple. So sometimes it might take a little while to find it, but there it is. So our common multiple this time is 40. That will be our common denominator. So to go with 8 from 40, to go to 8 from 8 to 40, we're going to times by 5. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top, and 6 times 5 is 30. And we'll do the same thing over here. To get from 5 to 40, we're going to times by 8, times by 8, and 3 times 8 is 24. Now we can add them together. Remember, we leave the bottoms the same, but we're going to deal with the top. So 30 plus 24 is 54. Now in this case, I'm not done yet because I have an improper fraction. I have 54 40ths. The top number is bigger than the smaller one, so I need to change it into a mixed number for my final answer. And remember, to find a mixed number, we're going to take the top number divided by the bottom number. 40 goes into 54 one time. That would be 40. And I can subtract and get 14. 40 doesn't go into 14, so I'd have to put a decimal point to keep working. But if we have to put a decimal point, that means we're done, because we don't want decimals in our fraction answer. So our whole number is what's on top. So we have 1. Our remainder is our numerator. So that's 14 over 40. Still not done in this case, because we can simplify 14 40ths. And what goes into 14 and 40? 2 goes into both. Yes, 2 goes into both of them. I can divide by 2, divide by 2, and get 1 and 7 20ths. And that would be our final answer. So there are a lot of steps when we add fractions, but the biggest thing to remember is our chance. When we add and subtract, we get the bottoms the same, and then we deal with the top. Do that first. Get your common denominators. Once you've done that, you're done with the bottom. Then you just need to deal with the top. Add the top stuff. Then you need to change it into a mixed number if you need to, and then simplify. Let's try this one right here. I'm going to add it on. We'll slide over a little bit here so we have some more room. We have 7/12 plus 3/4. So first things first, we need our common denominators again. So we're working with 12 and 4 this time. 12 would be like 12, 24, 36, 48, and so on from there. 4 would be like 4, 8, 12, 16, so on from there. And I do see our common denominator. It's 12 right here. And if we look, 7/12 is actually going to stay the same, so I don't even have to do anything to that one, because that one already is 12. And then for 3/4, to go from 4 to 12, we're going to times by 3. And whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. And 3 times 3 is 9. Now I can add them together. Remember, the bottom stay the same. We're just going to do at the top. 7 plus 9 is 7, 14, 16. Just like before, we're going to have to change it back into a mixed number. So how many times does 12 go into 16, or 16 divided by 12? 12 goes into 16 once. Subtract 12, and we'll get 4. If I want to keep going, I have to put decimal points. That means I'm done because we don't want decimal points in our answer. So our whole number's at the top. That's 1. And then we have 4 twelfths. Almost done, but I can simplify 4 twelfths. I can divide by 4, divide by 4, and get 1 and 1/3. And that is our final answer. Again, lots of steps for adding fractions, but just remember, get common denominators. Once you've done that, leave your bottoms the same, and then just add the tops, like we did here. Once you have your answer, put it into a mixed number if you need to, and simplify, and then you are good to go.